At exactly 12 a.m. on New Year, the hospital didn't celebrate. It selected its next patient. A true hospital horror story. It started like every New Year's shift does in a government hospital, too quiet for a place that never sleeps. At exactly 11:47 p.m., I signed the night register with a pen that barely worked, my name smudged like it already wanted to disappear. Outside the emergency ward, fireworks cracked in the distance. Inside, the lights flickered the way they always did when the backup generator argued with the main line. I remember thinking one thing very clearly. If I survive tonight, I'm quitting this job. I had been a nurse for 6 years, night duty, trauma ward. You see things, you learn to shut parts of yourself off. But hospitals have a way of remembering everything, even the things you try to forget. The clock above the nurse station was stuck at 11:58 p.m. It had been like that for months. Nobody bothered fixing it. Time didn't matter here anyway. Patients came in, some left, some didn't. At 11:59, the automatic doors at the end of the corridor opened. No stretcher, no attendants, just a man walking in. He was barefoot. That was the first thing I noticed. Hospitals don't let people walk in barefoot at night. Security stops them, but he passed through like the rules didn't apply. He wore a patient gown, old style, the kind we stopped using years ago. Thin cotton, faded blue stripes. The back was open. His feet were black with dried blood. He stopped exactly under the broken clock and looked at me. I didn't hear fireworks anymore. I didn't hear monitors. I didn't even hear my own breathing, because I knew that face. Every nurse knew that face. The man who died in Ward C, Bed 7, 3 years ago. The one whose file still didn't make sense. The one whose death certificate had time of death, 12 a.m., January 1, written in shaky handwriting. The New Year patient. He smiled. The clock ticked. 12 a.m. All the lights went out. Not emergency red, not backup yellow, complete darkness. Then the screaming started, not from patients, from the walls. I wish I was exaggerating. I wish I could tell you it sounded like pipes or wind or old wiring, but I have been in hospitals long enough to know the difference between noise and voices. They came from inside the walls, layered, overlapping, men, women, children, crying, begging, whispering numbers, room numbers, bed numbers, dates. The lights slammed back on. The man was gone. The clock started moving again, 12:01 a.m. Behind the nurse station phone, the old emergency extension, one we never used, began ringing. I picked it up with hands that didn't feel like mine. "Night duty," I said. The voice on the other end was calm, too calm. It said, "Ward C, Bed 7, he's awake." I swallowed. That bed has been empty for 3 years. Silence. Then the voice whispered, "He waits every New Year." The line went dead. hospitals. If you don't understand it, don't talk about it. At 12:12 a.m., the first emergency case came in. Road accident, male, unconscious, head trauma. They put him in Ward C, bed 7. I argued, I begged, I said that bed was under maintenance. I said the oxygen line was faulty. The senior doctor snapped at me. Stop being dramatic. It's New Year. Everyone's tired. They wheeled the patient in. The moment his back touched the mattress, every monitor in the ward flatlined. Not his, every monitor. Heart rates dropped to 0 across the floor. Patients sat up screaming. IV stands toppled, glass shattered, and from bed 7, the patient opened his eyes. They weren't human eyes. They were milky white, filmed over like someone who had been dead for days. He turned his head toward me and spoke, in the exact same voice as the man from the entrance. "Still here?" he asked. The doctors froze. "Sedate him," someone shouted. But before anyone moved, the patient grabbed the side rail with strength no injured man should have, and sat up. The skin on his arms, it wasn't skin, it looked stitched, layer over layer, different shades, different ages, like pieces borrowed from other bodies. He smiled wider than a mouth should. 3 years, he said, 3 new years without a bed. The doors to Ward C slammed shut, locked. I realized then what no one wanted to admit. Ward C had been built over the old hospital wing, the one that burned down decades ago, the one where records were lost, patients unaccounted for, people who never got discharge slips, people who never officially died. At 12:20 a.m., the ambulance alarm started ringing, but there was no fire, only smoke, black, thick smoke pouring from under bed 7. It smelled like burnt hair and antiseptic. The patient began to laugh, and the walls answered him. Names appeared on the walls, burned into the paint like scars. Dates, midnights, every January 1. The senior doctor whispered something I'll never forget. "He's not a patient." The man tilted his head. "I was," he said, "every year." He reached into his own chest. I swear to God, there was no blood, just darkness. And from that darkness, hands reached out, grabbing, pulling. Patients from nearby beds were dragged screaming towards bed 7, one by one. Their monitors spiked, then flatlined as they disappeared into the smoke. The hospital generator failed. Total blackout. In the dark, I felt someone grip my wrist. Cold, too cold. The original man's voice whispered in my ear, "You work here. You remember us." I screamed. The emergency lights burst on. Ward C was empty. No patients, no beds, no blood. Just one thing left behind on the mattress of bed 7. A nurse's badge, my badge, with today's date scratched into it. January 1. Security found me an hour later in the stairwell, shaking, repeating the same sentence over and over. They reset every year. The official report says there was a gas leak, hallucinations, mass hysteria. They shut down Ward C permanently, bricked it up. But hospitals don't forget, and neither do I. Because every year, on New Year's night, at exactly 11:58 p.m., my phone rings from a number that doesn't exist, and a calm voice asks,
Night duty? Then whispers, Ward C is open.
A horrifying New Year's Eve trip goes wrong. The protagonist and friends travel to a remote hotel in the mountains for the celebrations, but the hotel is cursed. Strange shadows, dark figures, and unexplainable deaths make this a night they will never survive. This new year, not everyone will see the clock strike 12, and some celebrations are meant to end in screams. The four friends had been planning this New Year's trip for months. The old hotel in the mountains promised an exclusive New Year experience, complete with snow, luxury, and fireworks. But as they drove up the winding, snow-covered road, a strange chill ran down Ethan's spine. The snow fell heavier with every mile. The forest around them was silent, too silent. Not a bird, not a car, not a single sound but the crunching of their tires over the frozen road. Maya shivered in the passenger seat. "Are we sure this is the right place?" she asked, peering at the barely visible sign half buried in snow. "Yep," Ethan replied, although his voice betrayed a hint of doubt. "According to the website, it's just past the next curve." They reached the hotel. The structure loomed above them like a dark sentinel. Its windows glowed faintly with a yellow light, but the paint was peeling, the wood creaking with every gust of wind. The door opened automatically, but the interior smelled old, like damp wood, and something else, something metallic that made Liam wrinkle his nose. The hotel keeper appeared, tall and silent, with a face pale as snow. "Welcome," he said. "Your rooms are ready. Dinner starts in an hour. The celebration begins at midnight." Something about his smile didn't feel right, but the friends brushed it off. They were here to enjoy themselves. After all, it was New Year's Eve. The dining hall was decorated festively, with fairy lights and a massive clock on the wall counting down to midnight. But there was something off. No other guests were visible, only the hotel staff moving silently. No music, no chatter, only the faint sound of wind outside. As they ate, the lights flickered. Shadows moved along the walls, almost like they had minds of their own. Sarah laughed nervously, trying to ease the tension, but Maya's gaze kept drifting to the corner of the room. She felt someone or something watching them. "Did you see that?" Maya whispered to Ethan. "See what?" She pointed, but there was nothing, only the shadows stretching unnaturally, elongating across the floor. The hotel keeper approached them with dessert, his eyes empty like black holes. "Be sure to enjoy the champagne," he said, almost too softly. "Time passes differently here. Midnight comes faster than you think."